Well, it's been an eventful week, and from the leadership of the National Assembly with Godswill Akpabio emerging as the President of the Senate and Tajuddin Abbas as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, a lot has been happening, and Nigerians have been asking questions. Is this actually democracy? And aren't we expecting to see a rubber-stamped National Assembly? Both. The Speaker is saying no to that, and also the President of the Senate is also optimistic that both chambers will deliver as expected. That and many more we'll be discussing this particular segment, also looking at the suspension of the suspended Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godswill Emefiele, and as well as the Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdul Rashid Bawa. A lot has happened within the week, and so many are saying they expect to see more. Another interesting video that is out there is a former member of the House of Representatives, Kazauri. Also, in fact, I saw the video where he was naming so many of them. A needs to be invited. Former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sajia Umar Farouk, needs to be invited. And many others. In fact, he also indicted, as we speak, deputy governors in the Central Bank of Nigeria. And to do justice to this topic is no other person but our guest, and I'm going to be introducing him as a medical doctor. He is also an environmentalist and an entrepreneur. Dr. Siri Shemele is has first degree in medicine and surgery, and a graduate from the ABU University of Zaria, and many others. I really don't want to read out or roll out his qualifications, but as time goes on, we'll definitely do that. Thank you very much, Doctor, for coming on the stage and program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, like I earlier introduced, I said we had a lot, within the week. Let's start with the National Assembly. I guess you watched or experienced what happened on the floor. Do you first see that as democracy in display?
Well, a lot of people believe that democracy is the most important arm when it, the National Assembly, one of the most important arm in democracy, because these are people that have direct link with the grassroots. You want to work with people who you have the same goal and visionary ideas. We saw the experience in the 8th National Assembly where there were a lot of cacophony between the executive and the legislature. We heard about budget padding, and a lot of things happened then, and that really created a lot of slow progression in APC as at then during the Buhari first term. So I think it's a victory for democracy, it's a victory for Nigeria, and because we have seen the track record of Godswill Akpabio and the Speaker. So with these two combination with our President Tinubu, I think it's the best team, because it's about teamwork.
And you don't see this as imposition?
No, I don't think, because there was election.
Look at those
and you saw it on national TV.
I saw it on national TV,
yes.
But the scenario where we have the president insisting that these are the particular person that should lead.
In every democracy, you have your choice. So the president wants A or B, depending on the people, to choose who they want, but he cannot put gun on their head to decide what they want. But it was transparent, it was free and fair and credible. So
what should we be expecting from the leadership of both chambers?
Yeah, we want to see, because there's a lot that we have to look at. Well, for example, we see from the past 2.5 weeks, we've seen the steps that the president have taken so far to free us from the common heritage from the hands of those who have held us back. We want to see a teamwork, in the sense that in terms of security, there will be multi-layer policing. That's my hope, because that's one of the major agenda for this administration during the campaign. We also want to address brain drain, we want to address the decaying infrastructure, we want to address education, healthcare. There's a whole lot of things that we need to address, and you need a National Assembly that will be in line with you and not trying to frustrate your efforts.
A lot of people, particularly Nigerians, are hoping to look at that, the issue of security, state policing. Do you think it's a step in the right direction? Don't you think you'll see why the federal and the states are overlapping? in terms of functions, is Nigeria ripe for state policing?
I believe, in my own opinion, we could have a kind of checks and balance. For example, if there's a state police, there should be a way in which there should be rules and regulation, there should be policy tailored to monitor the activities of the state. Maybe in terms of the state police would be exempted for anything that has to do with political, so that the governors, including governors, will not use them to, you know what happens in Nigeria. So I believe apart from state police, university could have their own police, local government will have their own police, and it works in other developed countries. So, but we can create laws and policy in which we can streamline their duties and make sure that there's no abuse of office by the governors, what we see now. So maybe when we have state police, we could say, okay, when it comes to anything that has to do with politics, the state police should not be involved in terms of witch hunting of opponents and election malpractices. So there are ways we could do it to tailor our own daily lives and our own culture and our own way of living.
All right, and immediately after the inauguration of both chambers of the National Assembly, we just saw the breaking news. You know, we are always good at just in or breaking news. We saw the suspension of the former governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. And you and I witnessed the money issue in Nigeria. In fact, we saw lives lost, banks being burnt down, and a lot of issues happening. So many say it is witch hunt. What would you make of this?
Well, people will always say things, but I believe as a president, you must be able to stand your ground to do whatever you want to do. There will always be naysayers, no matter what. For there to be an investigation, you must suspend the Central Bank governor. He's not fired, he's just suspended. And for transparent investigation, he has to be out of the way, not to cause any obstruction of justice. So I think there's nothing wrong in it. If there's an accusation, they should look at it, and if he's found not wanting, then he can come back. So
what investigation should we be looking at here? You know, looking at the monetary policy within the CBN, what in particular do you have, what are your fears or what concerns do you have? What area would you expect for a diligent investigation since he's in a DSS custody?
Yeah, the president has said he wants to overhaul the CBN. For example, one single rate, not black market rate and official rate. And if you want to do an overhaul, I think the best is what they've done.
Just the CBN governor alone? What about others?
It takes time. Investigation takes time. Maybe as time goes on, they might say, okay, this person needs to step aside and all that. So we can't just, conclude. Let's let the DSS do their job and not interfere with the investigation. I think that's my advice.
And then the young EFCC chairman as well, Bawa.
Yeah, people have complained, so they should. That's the way. Nobody's above
no,
the
people
law.
are complaining. What about you? From what angle are you seeing all of it from? Not just people are complaining.
Well, I don't see from any angle. I just believe nobody's above the law. If he's found wanting, if he's clean, he could be returned. It's just suspension. He's not fired. I guess he can come back after a month after the investigation if that nothing found.
Are there other top government officials you are looking forward to, probably to be invited or investigated by the DSS or EFCC?
I think the DSS knows best.
You don't have
I can't
any
tell
mind.
them their job.
You don't have any mind to say you've been seeing what is happening in the economy in the country, and we've complained. I mean, talking about other agencies, ministries, departments. You feel that they should also be under investigation as well, not just the EFCC and the CBN.
It depends. Like the CBN, there must be a reason where it's under investigation. Maybe there must have been some petitions, I don't know. Same with the EFCC chairman, I heard there was abuse of offices. So it's not just witch hunting people like that. There must be a base for your investigation. It's not a general witch hunting, no, I don't think so.
In all of these, where do you see Nigeria going or heading
No, I
to?
see Nigeria going in the right direction, moving forward. And we've seen in the last 2 weeks, for example, the student loan doesn't mean a child of the poor cannot go to school except you're not serious. So that's something that we should celebrate, especially in a country where the majority of the population are young people. So policy, people-oriented policy, especially targeted towards the young people, I think we should give it all the support needed.
Can you educate us more? Probably, I know my viewer out there will want to know. The student loan, are they expected to pay back?
That's why it's called a loan. Except maybe after graduation you don't have a job, which I believe you should have a job.
Well, we have no job in the country.
There's always, there will be job.
Okay, probably
There's
when
no
they japa and work outside, they will bring money and pay back for the loan.
No, I don't think so. I guess there will be job because the issue is government have no business in business. What government can do is to make ease of business for people who want to do, for investors. In America, federal civil servants are less than 4 million in population. Most of the jobs in the US, for example, is healthcare. More than 50% is healthcare. So, but when there is security, when you cut tax breaks, yes, you provide electricity for barber shop, for salon, for small scale industries to strive, not all your money going to diesel or petrol. You're making people, you're making business easy for people. So government don't really have to do business directly, but you can make means of making things easy for people, for investors, for you to be able to go to the bank and get loan without, knowing somebody in the bank. Those are ways government can help people. Looking at the electricity, roads, transportation, and other ways of subsidizing things like kerosene for the poor, So I don't think it's government that have to take all the responsibility, but government has the responsibility of making things easy for you to do business. If there's security, you go home and your store will not be, robbed at night. Of course, you want to expand your shop to different districts. But when there's insecurity, you'll be scared to open another barber shop or another boutique somewhere because you get robbed. So I think the responsibility for government is to make things easy, make life easy, and it's not difficult.
Yeah. Now, instead of the student loan, a lot of people are clamoring for scholarship. Is that too much for the government?
For a population of over 200 million people, and a lot of them are young people, even the most, the richest country on earth can't give scholarship to everybody. But you can give scholarship to people who deserve, maybe first class people who are, gifted kids. There are provisions, they could make provisions for that. I know we used to have bursaries for universities, state bursaries, local government bursaries. Those can come into play. And the money can come from when you block leakages, when you block corruption, and you can have excess money for that.
Okay, I know my producer will have that video on Asari Dokubo there, and let me bring it up if that video is ready so that my guest will also listen to his allegation. He's alleging that those who are into oil theft are majorly those in the military and in the Navy. So it gets me worried, and I keep asking if at all a militant or an individual who is not a uniform person is accusing the Army and the Navy of sabotaging government
Success, they say, has many friends, which explains why President Bola Tinubu has had constant visits from a cross-section of Nigeria.
Or what initiative do you think President Bola Tinubu should take to see that we address the issue of oil theft, particularly in Nigeria? But if that video is ready so that you can get to listen to his allegation.
Constant visits from a cross-section of Nigerians. On Friday, popular activist Asari Dokubo, who is a staunch supporter of the president, was at the villa. In his words, he came to encourage the president to continue with the momentum he has started with. Speaking on other matters, Asari bared his mind on the economic sabotage in the Niger Delta, which has become an albatross of the nation.
They receive a lot of money from NNPC, PCL, and the IOCs. And just across the corner, you will see a houseboat, a few meters from the houseboat, you will see an oil bunkering refinery or tapping directly from oil well heads. It is very pathetic now. What is happening in the Niger Delta in the past 8 years was unprecedented in the history of oil production anywhere in the world.
Asari Dokubo has also suggested that the Nigerian army has received help from non-state actors to achieve the measure of success it has recorded in recent times.
They said they do not have enough armament, and people listen to these false narratives. They are lying. They are liars. I repeat, they are liars, because I am a participant. I am a participant in this war. I fight on the side of the government of the Nigerian state, in Plateau, in Niger, in Anambra, in Imo, in Abia, and in Rivers State, and in Abuja. Today you are traveling to Kaduna on this road. It's not the army that made it possible to travel for you to travel to Abuja or travel to Kaduna, vice versa. It is my men, employed by the government of the Nigerian state, stationed in Niger. Today you go to Baga, you go to Chirolo, you go to Wase. We have lost so many men, and we do not use, in all this engagement, we don't even have 1% of the armament deployed by the Nigerian military.
These accusations from Asari Dokubo are weighty and aren't new. However, he's optimistic that President Bola Tinubu will address the issues just as he has demonstrated with the suspension of the former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele and the EFCC Chairman Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa. From the presidential villa, Aonduna Inga, Silverbird News 24, Abuja.
Well, quite interesting there, and way
Success, they say, has many friends, which explains.
Yeah, they are with their allegation and also very embarrassing. But I know to any group there's always bad eggs. So I have friends, classmates who are top military officers who have integrity. But there are a few ones who might spoil the bunch. So I don't think we should just generalize all the military people like that. There should be investigation and, you know, get to the root of the matter and address it. And I guess the president would do that.
You heard him say he's a participant, and he's there with his men, paid or engaged by the federal government to see that Nigerians travel by road free, you know, despite banditry and what have you while you're traveling on the roads. And he named so many states: Abia, Kaduna, you have Plateau, and the rest of it all. So I'm a bit worried. So if we are able to travel because of his men, so what is the role of Nigerian, military officers in safeguarding lives?
No, I think they work in conjunction with the Nigerian army.
Yeah.
Because before now, they used to have foreign mercenaries who work for them. That's why he was saying it's better to use the local people who understand the terrain rather than bringing foreigners and paying them in foreign currency. But although it sounds embarrassing that a civilian will be the one protecting our territorial integrity instead of the military, I guess there should be reforms even in our security. There should be other modernized, contemporary technology being deployed to look at. We can look at drones, for example, and other issues. We shouldn't just be doing the same thing for decades and expecting different results.
So do you also buy the idea of integrating them into the military as well?
That's a very sensitive question. I think that should be left for the experts who may have a better understanding of how those things work.
A whole lot. People are so much expecting. The hope is high regarding Mr. President, in different areas, like you mentioned, health, security, and the rest of it all. Amongst all, what should be the priority?
I think the priority should be security, because you have to be alive to be educated. You have to be alive to go to church. You have to be alive to go to the hospital. You have to be alive to get a business. So the insecurity should be the #1 priority, because we have to be alive first before any other thing.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, the program continues.
rise in cases of kidnapping, banditry, cold clashes, bombings, and other acts of terror, it seems the current state of insecurity is relatively higher than ever before. Insecurity affects us all. It affects everything from our personal freedom, how we travel, from the cost of goods and services, to even our physical and mental health. Therefore, we have a duty to help security agencies protect us better, wherever and whenever we can. If you see or hear something suspicious in your neighborhood, don't keep it to yourself, but be sure to say something to the right authorities. Remember, you could just be saving a life, and that life you saved could be yours.
This is a message from the Silverbird Group. Breaking news stories, insightful documentaries, news reports from around the globe, and original news content. Now available 24 hours daily on StarTimes Channel 109. Stream live on YouTube at www.youtube.com/SilverbirdN24 Live. Follow on Facebook at Silverbird News 24, on Twitter at Silverbird N24, and on Instagram at Silverbird N24. Silverbird News 24, the news never stops.
Welcome back. Well, my guest in the studio is Dr. Cyril Oshemole. He's a medical doctor, environmentalist, an entrepreneur, and also has vast knowledge in other specific areas of the economy. And we'll be looking at the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, the tax before the President of the Senate and Tinubu presidency. What is the journey so far? I think he spent just barely 3 weeks in office, if not less. So a lot happening, you know, and experts are saying this is the right thing to do, the right step in the right direction. Dr. Cyril will also speak further regarding the economy and how the National Assembly should support Mr. President to achieve his game. Renewed hope. That's the logo, renewed hope for Nigerians. So we'll be asking this question now again. The inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, the tax before the President of the Senate. What should Godswill Akpabio do in his first 100 days in office?
I know Godswill Akpabio has a very good track record. People knew when he was going, he was one of the best governors in Nigeria. Lawmakers are people who do a lot of research. They also get researchers, they get experts from different fields. That's why even in the US, the Library of the Congress, is the biggest library in the world, over 194 materials. So there are vast areas in which you can get advice, expert advice from healthcare to economy. So there's a lot I know he can do, and it's a teamwork, getting the best brains and working hand in hand with the executive, and there's no fighting. There's a lot I know he can do. We talked about insecurity, we talked about employment, electricity, infrastructure, roads. There's a lot.
And then talking economy, how should the National Assembly support Mr. President to bring about the renewed hope Nigerians are asking or yearning for?
For example, now the President had just inaugurated an economic team headed by the Vice President Shatima. Like we said, in every democracy, National Assembly, legislature are one of the most key important role, because they are people that have direct contact with the grassroots. In areas like this, they can also key into the program, suggest, because
the Nigerian economy has not experienced a sort of
any other person. I'm from a village where I know my people compared to someone from Sokoto who is at the top or helm of affairs. So they can share ideas, brainstorm, and work as a team.
Okay, so you are an environmentalist, and what should the National Assembly be doing to fight climate change, for example, in the country?
The issue of climate change is a very sensitive issue, and because even in developed economies, you have to look at trying to have clean air or clean energy vis-a-vis not hurting your economy.
Yeah.
So we're not as industrialized as some countries like China, who they have to look at the economy first before talking about climate change. Well, but as an environmentalist, my interest should be is mainly focused on the Niger Delta, especially because of the oil spill, the health effects, the economic impact, because there's a lot of people who are, for example, fishermen, they can't go to the farm, they can't go into fishery anymore. Those who are farmers cannot go to the farm because of massive pollution, and these multinationals don't even give adequate compensation. When you compare to the oil spill in the BP petroleum that happened close to Louisiana, they gave almost $20 billion in compensation. And then they cleaned up the environment, people came back to their fishery business, because like in Louisiana, we produce about 40% of the seafood industry in the US. So we want to, as an environmentalist, I want to see lawmakers, oversee, as what part of their oversight function, not just passing laws, to make sure that these multinationals pay for damages and also dispose this waste in a manner that it doesn't affect the ecosystem, that those people who are fishermen can go and go back to their businesses, those who are farmers. Because when we see the injustice in the Niger Delta, especially from the lens of an environmentalist, is really sad. And I think this National Assembly, and thank God that Gospel are probably from the South. So those are the issues why, one of the reasons why I salute the courage of the president for choosing somebody like Gospel, apart from the religious aspect of it. He's from that region, and there's a lot of pollution out there. So at the end of the day, when he retires, he will go back to his people. So I believe charity begins at home. He is there for the country, and also he must make sure that this injustice that happened in the Delta in terms of oil pollution will be a thing of the past.
You're a medical. Okay, let me go back to the issue of oil pollution. Would you say the last administration did not do enough in terms of cleaning up?
Yeah, it's a continuous process. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you clean your house today, doesn't mean tomorrow you're not going to clean your house.
Yeah.
You do it every day. So it's going to be a continuous process, and laws and policies should be made in which this multinational don't just go away with injustice. There must be people that are accountable. People must be punished either by fines or whatever, to make sure that those people are compensated and those pillage stops, because some of these things affect the health of these people even in generations to come, apart from the economy, even the health implication of it. So I believe if they work with the multinationals, apart from compensation, to clean up the environment, make it habitable for people to go about their daily businesses.
Yeah. I know you're a medical doctor. You should come across the bill from the National Assembly, particularly the House, on brain drain, I think 5 years before giving license. I don't know whether you came across that. What will you make of that?
I'm not sure if that will work. We're in a democracy, we're not in a military era. If they want the brain drain, I know they can address the issue of working environments.
Yeah.
Most of the best doctors in the world are Nigerians. Saudi government comes every year to take a lot of Nigerians, and the UK government. So what is the cause of the brain drain? What should we be looking at? We should be looking at the cause of the effect, not just the result of the brain drain. What's causing the brain drain? It's because of lack of adequate pay, lack of motivation, lack of a good working environment. If all those can be addressed, I don't think nobody will want to leave this country and be a second-class citizen in a foreign land.
Because I was worried that you're still here with me. I was expecting you to japa, and probably you've jackpad and you're back. I don't know. Probably you need to enlighten us more.
Issue of brain drain. When you compare the salaries of your contemporaries abroad, it's very tempting. But what government can do is to, give the doctors what their demands, increase the salaries, make living conditions better for them. You can't pay the doctor ridiculous amount of salary as hazard allowance when he has family to take care of. So I believe once you look at what is causing the brain drain and address those issues, it will be a thing of the past. At least you can minimize the amount of drain. You cannot stop migration. It's a global phenomenon, it's part of globalization. You can't stop it.
All right, so what's your final call on the President of the Senate talking health, particularly bills that will have to do with the well-being or welfare of doctors and nurses in Nigeria? What should Godswill Akpabio do? And it must be in connection with the National Senate, House of Reps as well.
Yeah, Senator Godswill Akpabio has a very good track record in terms of healthcare. When he was governor of Akwa Ibom, he did a lot for the healthcare system. I urge him that they should look at the pay of doctors and health workers, nurses, pharmacists, and lab scientists. Increase the pay, make get first-class equipment, modernize equipment, make the working environment conducive for anybody to want to work in Nigeria. And people might want to even leave other countries and come and work. It's possible. We had that in the 60s when people came from Saudi Arabia to the University of Ibadan for medical attention. That could be done. And we're seeing private individuals, some private hospitals in Nigeria today, who are almost reversing medical tourism, people coming from other countries to do transplants in Nigeria. Okay, thank you very much. That's how much we can take on today's episode of the program News Hub Extra. And we've been discussing or talking with Dr. Cyril Oshemole. He's a medical doctor, environmentalist, and entrepreneur, and also a first degree in medicine and surgery, a graduate of the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I will draw the curtain here. So those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Okay, yes, aye. The ayes have it. I remain your host, Grace Ike. Until I come your way, same time, same station next week. From me, it's bye.